They would look up at the new Catskill Mountain House and they would call it the Yankee Palace.
When they build it right there on the edge of this ledge here where Natty Bumppo has stood and declared that he could see all creation.
And it was, in fact, the first mountain house of its kind in America.
The Catskill Mountain House was kind of the ultimate combination of civilization and savagery.
The place I mean is next to the river, where one of the ridges juts out a little from the rest, and where the rocks fall for the best part of 1,000 feet. So much up and down that a man standing on their edges is fool enough to think he can jump from top to bottom. "What see you when you get there?" asked Edwards. "Creation," said Natty, dropping the end of his rod into the water and sweeping one hand around him in a circle. "All creation, lad." James Fenimore Cooper, 1823, The Pioneers.
Coming to the mountain house, yes, they loved it. They must have really found it the most unique place in the world because they went through such hardship to get there. Would land in Catskill. Well, they did in the beginning. And come by stagecoach. It took 5 hours to get to the mountain house. They came 12 miles and it took 5 hours. And every account tells of the pain and the misery and the fact that the interior of the stagecoach was very uncomfortable, and many of them told about walking up and when they came to the hills, they truly did get out and walk because it was so hard on the horses. However, when they got to the top, all the writings just rave about it. Sometimes they got to the top and there was nothing but fog. But even the fog was interesting to them.
Well, I've done the Catskills. I've tugged up that steep mountain, one of the hottest days in which a quadruped or biped ever perspired, packed to suffocation with other gasping sufferers in that crucifying institution called a stagecoach, until I became resignedly indifferent whether it reached its destination or rolled head over heels, or rather head over wheels, over the precipice. Fanny Fern, 1872.
Of course, they always went to Kaaterskill Falls. I call it Kaaterskill. Some people call it Kaaterskill.
Little more than 2 miles from the mountain house, by a rough road, is an immense gorge scooped from the rugged hills, into which pours the gentle outlet of the little Kaaterskill Lakes, in a fall first of 175 feet, and close to it another of 80 feet. The falls have been so well described by the leatherstocking, Natty Bumppo, that a better picture cannot be drawn. Benson J. Lossing, 1866. "There's a place," said Natty, "that in late times I relished better than the mountains, for it was more covered by the trees and more natural." "And where was that?" inquired Edwards. "Why, there's a fall in the hills where the water of 2 little ponds that lie near each other breaks out of their bounds and runs over the rocks into the valley. The stream is, maybe, such a one as would turn a mill, if so useless a thing was wanted in the wilderness. But the hand that made that leap never made a mill." James Fenimore Cooper, The Pioneers, 1823.
At the very moment that the Erie Canal opens in 1825, you have Thomas Cole coming up the river on a steamboat, gets off here at the point, and goes up into the Catskills.
And there are some drawings and paintings that survive from that very first trip. So we know where he went, and it was all that beautiful area right around the Catskill Mountain House Hotel. That was really the trip that launched his career and really launched the Hudson River School. He had made sketches on the spot, pencil sketches, and then over the winter made them into paintings, and then presented them in a window of a shop in New York City where they were discovered by some very influential people. And they said, "My God, this man has done what we have attempted to do, and our whole careers, and here this young whippersnapper has done it, which is really capture the American landscape and the spirit of American wilderness.
One day at the Mountain House, a guest ordered spring chicken and was informed that he could not have it. He made a rumpus and was told that if he wanted spring chicken, he had better build a hotel of his own and furnish it. He vowed that he would, and he did. And the Kaaterskill is the magnificent result of that quarrel. It is said that their bill of fare is never without spring chicken. Such antics hot-blooded men can play, even among the clouds on nature's always solemn and impressive high places. Francis Allen Horton, 1889.
Beach's remark was, well, if you don't like what's on our menu, perhaps you'd like to build your own hotel. And he did.
Our 1,000-room hotel that could handle 1,128 guests, it was a mile around the foundation of the hotel. At the parapet heights, it was 7 stories high. The main hotel was 5, with 2 big, long wings to the back, which at the time it was built was the largest frame building in the world.
So the steamboat is the original impetus, and then later on, the railroad.
So when Harding built the Hotel Kaaterskill, there was pressure to extend the Ulster and Delaware Railroad, which had been built in the 1860s and 1870s, up the Esopus Valley from Kingston on west through Stamford. They figured a way that they could bring it through the Stony Clove Notch. And it came literally through the notch and then on down this side, and then they built it east to the Kaaterskill Station, which was right on North-South Lake. Charles Beach became obviously upset because he knew that the Hotel Kaaterskill, being the hotel that it was, and if they had their own railroad, that he was going to be left high and dry and was going to have a real dilemma. So he got together with some of his people in Catskill, and primarily with his own money, decided to and built a railroad from Catskill to Palinville called the Catskill Mountain Railroad, which was a 3-foot narrow gauge rail line. Started 1881, they opened it. But it brought the people to the bottom of the mountain, and it was difficult. And he knew that people were going to come via the railroad to Phoenicia on the Ulster and Delaware, and then on the narrow gauge railroads to the station at Kaaterskill, which was about a mile from the Catskill Mountain House, but was also the station for the Hotel Kaaterskill. So he had to do something to captivate the imagination of people to come back to his place, and he did. And he contracted in 1892 with the Otis Elevator Company of Yonkers to build a funicular railroad from the bottom of the mountain in Palinville right to the doorstep of his hotel. And in 1892, the Otis Elevating Railway opened and connected the Catskill Mountain Railroad and Catskill directly with the Catskill Mountain House. And so then you had 2 railroads and 2 ways to get here. You had the Ulster and Delaware route, which came up the Esopus Valley through the Notch and to South Lake or Kaaterskill Station, and or the Catskill Mountain Railroad system that came from Catskill west and then up the face of the mountain, both depositing passengers within a mile of each other